Hello, everyone. I noticed a lot of streamers and YouTubers. First of all, welcome to Simulation Talk 230. What's up, Biggie Cheese? I noticed a lot of streamers have a name for their followers. What would I call you guys? Just call you guys. Hey, baby girl. What can I? Zena, what's up, booby? Saying hey. So the the awakened ones, or is that too loaded? What's up, everyone? What's up, Chris and Ebony and Blue Rooster? Oh man, I always forget my mouse. It doesn't make a noise. Hold on. There we go. Whoa! Dance Go Bots. That's actually pretty good, I have to say. Dance Go Bots. I'm gonna write it down. I just definitely don't think you guys are bots, but it's just hilarious. Something so obnoxious and absurd that will upset everybody else. So, like, the awakened ones would be one of those examples. Like, you mean like the awakened ones? Soft illustration. Max. Welcome everybody across platforms. Growing fast. Power off. Blue Rooster. Ebony and Chris, of course. Yoni. Yay! We have Inky on Twitch. What's up, Nicola? Tom. Ahoy, ahoy. Yeah, if you want to join on Twitch, let's help Twitch grow. LaserX83, LaserX83, LaserX83 on Twitch. Come join. Oh, man. And give us a follow from there and follow the stream from there so we can bring up the viewership. I'm now in the habit of checking what the deal there is. Let's see what we're streaming gives us the next one. Dashboard. Boom. Boo. Last one was just 2 viewers. That's my face. We need to get average of 3 people per live to go to the next level. And we definitely want to go to the next level. So let's go to the next level. Hearts to everyone. Let's see if it does the thing. Come on, YouTube, give us the thing. There we go. It worked for the first time ever. Also, the combination of the red and the blue is really nice. Thank you so much for the likes, guys. Native. Pedal 12. Wait. Dude, TikTok is just out of control in terms of like controls. Its controls are out of control. What's up, Jill? Is that like second base? Which one? The hard thing? You know that till this day, it writes. I don't know why it does that, but for me, maybe because it translated to StreamYard. But everything you said, Ebony, the emojis, mine just says hands, yellow heart, red hands, yellow heart, red hands, yellow heart, red hands, yellow heart, red hands, yellow heart. This is great. Hands, yellow heart, red hands. That's amazing. It's one way of doing it. Next level indeed. Top Zach and Kelly and Jill. User 6458. How everybody doing? Is that you guys posting on Discord? I always appreciate. Ooh, what a great picture, Guru. I love that. The Buddha. That is a great one. With the deer and everything, man. This is amazing. Gotta love it. Wait, how do you... Can't I? Oh, there's like a browser. Let's see if I can... it's like GIFs. I'm gonna save this one. Boom. Beautiful. Well, I appreciate that. It's very nice. Wish I could show you. Okay, just now seeing messages also. Just so you guys know, usually on the weekends, I'm not really looking at anything at all, especially not on Saturdays. Let's see if there's anything important that I gotta get through. But oh yeah, also I was telling Carter, but I think it just kind of, you guys got to teach me how to do these cool emoji cons or whatever they're called on Discord. Ebony, I'm sure you can teach me very quickly. I need mine to do cool things too, you know. Can't be left behind. Oh, Ebony just showed me the yellow hands. I've actually never seen this emoji before. Maybe that's why. Oh, I'm sorry you can't be here with us tonight. Teach me the language of emojis. No, I mean like on Discord, you know how your face appears with like the electricity and stuff, and then stuff happening around it. That's really cool. Carter has one too. I need to learn how to do that. Feel very last century with my regular profile picture. Numerous is saying you see a glimpse and take that as the whole picture. It's the cave all over again. Not sure how you have determined what I know, what I don't know, what I've discerned, unless you've literally listened to every single talk I ever gave, in which case you wouldn't be saying what you're saying. Yeah, you know what? I would love Zach to meet the Frogman again so I can talk about him more. Also, I promised, I'm not going to forget, and of course I forgot to find the light because I feel like I'm a little bit too dark on TikTok, but that's okay. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. And also, in general, to who was it, the comment? Dude, come on, TikTok. Come on, TikTok. Give me a break. Numerous X. Actually, the funny thing is that as long as you're not outside of existence itself, in other words, full nirvana, in which there's no more content, there's no more, it's not like anything at all, it's always and forever the cave. That's actually the catch. Anybody who claims or thinks that they have some kind of information that has to do with the ultimate picture of everything that is going on, they are deeply confused about what's going on. Truth lies behind light. Let me see if I can bring the light. Let's see if I can bring the light. Babe, did you see the light, by the way? When you were back with the light. With the... What is it? Yeah, just see light. Oh, things. Too many preps. Yoni saying, I'm always confused, but I love it. The aha moments I get all the time. I am dumb as still good. I mean, we're all dumb in comparison to the general state of affairs. No one person has all the answers, but we can learn a lot from each other to see the bigger picture. Exactly. While exchanging notes. Oh, Blue Rooster ordered the coffee mug and the t-shirt. Thank you so much. And hey, you're getting a collector's item. So I'm very happy to send it to you. Carter will be back from his wonderful trip on Tuesday, and I'm sure he'll be able to send it over. I will check the Stripe thing tomorrow, and then we'll be sending it over. Thank you so much. And if you guys want to get your limited edition mug and or shirt with the old logo that will never exist again, which means that you will have a collector's item that will never be made again. We have a new logo, so this one's going to be something that will you'll be able to say, "Hey, I have the old logo. It doesn't exist anymore." Maybe 5 years from now, and it's all available on codeofreality.com. Same price. There's no like extra special things or anything. So nothing, no need to pay anything extra. It's just what it is. But we're getting rid of the old to make a place for the new. But it's a great opportunity to get a collector's item that will literally never exist again, which is kind of cool because that old logo has a special place in my heart. I really like it. The problem with it is that it contains a language that is in a font that is owned by somebody, so we can't really use that, I think, over time. This is why we have a wonderful designer by the name of Brittany who came up with this new logo that we really love that you can see on Discord. Thank you for these comments, Numerous X. Yes, I'm aware of the ringing, aware of a lot more than I usually speak in public. And if you have something to share, feel free to share. Otherwise, statements about the mystery of things not followed by the actual knowledge that you might hold is, doesn't really get us anywhere. So if you have something to share, feel free to do so. That's what we're doing here. Otherwise, what do you want me to do with it? That's my. I wish there would be a. It's like that guy, the emoji guy. Am I doing it right? Here's what I'm aware of. I'm aware that all these ideas of gatekeeping are, and I'm not talking about you. I don't want it to come across that way. Definitely not. This is not like a, not saying anything about you. I am aware of this as a whole. A, no one in existence knows what's going on. Not one entity, including the highest of gods. That's one. Two, anybody who pretends there's some kind of a gatekeeping situation, let's be gentle. They do not understand what's happening. They either fell prey for that idea, which is the prison in full, or they are in fact doing this maliciously in order to hold others bound to that idea. That's what I know. These two things I know for sure. So there are no rules in the same sense of like somebody sitting there and making these rules. There's just the natural order of things that has to do with the shape of reality. If that's what you mean by that, then we're in full agreement. But if you want to tell me that somebody's sitting with a chart and measuring all your actions, I would say I completely disagree with that. That is not what I see. That is not what I'm aware of. And in my reality, that is not the case. The ringing in the ears is an interesting one because what I've discerned so far is that it has something to do with changing things when it's the left ear and something is coming when it's in the right ear. Now, obviously, there's fluidity to this, but they're attached to functions in what I guess you can say the matrix that are unfolding in a particular way in relationship to you as a person. What's up, Dawn? They're rare. Saying, I recently experimented with it and it left me very confused. I did at one time, I think, saw the code. you're referring to, it was layered over top of everything. Yes, like a fabric. Correct. And yeah, it does kind of leave you a little confused because I think that people don't really expect to see it. In fact, even the people that tell me I see the code without the laser or I see the code without the molecule, in the few instances in which the people who said that eventually tried the laser in the way that I'm describing it, they did come out of it saying, oh, okay, that's not what I saw before. So it does seem to be a different code. Reality is made of us. Yes, and not only. So reality is not just made out of us. Reality is made out of a lot of other things. Reality is basically in the same situation that we imagined, ironically, from a physicalist position. In other words, there is a world out there that is really, at least from our perspective, not really describable. And our experience of it maps onto a local bubble of coherence that gives it the logical operative rules, but they are still part of a more objective picture or a more universal picture that is not dependent just on what we are and what we're perceiving. It is actually doing a thing that will be unfolding regardless of what we experience. In other words, and I've said this before, this was made very explicit to me, which is that we're really happy you exist, but it doesn't matter at all, which is beautiful and very humbling. In other words, it's really great that you're here because you're part of the picture. But if you wouldn't be, it wouldn't matter one bit. And I find this truth liberating. Wait, hold on. So, oh, thank you for giving me that education, Ebony. Let's see what we got here. What's up, Mark? That poet is in the house. Good to see you. Maverick Star, I haven't seen you in a moment. Any important talk discussion that I have missed, so I can check that video there. I think the last few days were kind of cool. I enjoyed these conversations. Also, just to remind everybody that after this hour right now, we're going to have our weekly members only live on YouTube on Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. If you've never heard of it before, it's kind of great. We're doing, in addition to the daily lives, we do a weekly live that is only for members, in which I can put a lot more attention on every single thing that people say because it's less people, obviously. But we dive pretty deeply into subjects. Sometimes we would watch a video about something, analyze it. Sometimes we would just talk about whatever, or aliens, or all kinds of it can be philosophy, it can be mathematics. We really kind of dive deep, and it's my way of appreciating the fact that people join the membership program and putting more attention on what people actually want to engage with. And I can do that a lot more in a much more limited forum. So if you're not a member, come join the membership program on Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts on YouTube. And tomorrow we actually have another thing that the membership program gives you from the second tier and up, which is Zoom calls with me, which tomorrow we have one. And if you're joining today, please make sure from the second tier and up, make sure that you email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com, lasersimulationx@gmail.com, with the title new member, and then tell me that you're a second tier member, and I'll send you an invite for the Zoom call tomorrow. So that is happening right after this. This is our website I'm going to put on the screen. And Ebony always tells me to also do this. So we're doing that now. And come join our Discord if you haven't already. We have a great community of people to exchange these ideas, especially if you've done the experiment. You're going to have kindred spirits there. It's the third link from the top on YouTube on Dango Thoughts, and it is in my link tree. I think the second link. You can find it in the bio and on TikTok. Wait, what? Thank you so much, Ebony. We got two. What is it about witchcraft? Meets a Tibetan friend. Oh, you're talking about Buddha. I mean, I'm sure he'll join us. I know his hours are a little different, obviously. Dockers are nearly finished being filmed. Those was the Indeed, Ebony. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. What's up, Nathan? Haven't seen you in a while. Wait, let me read some of these comments. There's a lot of comments. Let me go through that. Yeah, all of us are for us. Again, it's not made for us. It's made for anything that is conscious in this universe. But sure, for us as well. But some weird things happen that I don't fully understand. Some Diamond's life. Calling in reality simulation does not do justice. Sure, well, you have to use some word, which is a conversation beginner, and then you can have a deeper conversation. I never said it's a prison. Only the movie The Matrix presented it as a prison. The Matrix does not mean prison. Simulation does not mean prison, nor does it mean fake. Simulation does not mean fake at all. Simulation just means computationally rendered. Words mean things, and it really matters. And yes, culturally, we do have certain connotations to words, and it's important to take into account. But I still maintain that, at least as a conversation starter, it is the best word because it encapsulates the most of what it really is. It is not a metaphor. It is, in fact, a computationally rendered environment by another civilization. I know it sounds a little on the nose. It is the case, though. So the real conversation is whether or not there's enough reasons to accept that. I say yes, considering the amount of information I'm directly was exposed to over time. Some people would say no, because they were not exposed to that information, and that's okay. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just making information available. It's a big distinction. As for the word simulation, yes, a philosopher friend of mine said maybe the word simulacrum would fit a little better, which I would even agree with. However, because the word simulacrum is a lot less known and opens too many kinds of questions that people don't necessarily want to dive into these rabbit holes immediately, it's more of a conversation ender than a conversation starter. At least to my mind, it is. Therefore, I think the word simulation does fit, and we can always clarify. The word simulation just means a computationally rendered layer. That's really all it means. It's a digitally created environment, which is exactly what this is. It is open-ended. It is definitely not a prison. The idea of a prison, I never said it was. And there's no the outcomes are not guaranteed or computed in advance. And agency is completely untouched. In other words, you are, for all intents and purposes, living in a regular physical universe, just like we imagined before. It's just that behind the laws of physics, there are these computationally bound environments that give rise to these laws of physics. And I'm claiming that we're now entering an era in which we're going to have direct access to be investigating that part of it. Some people would strongly disagree, and I would even say for a good reason, but that is my position. That's where I'm standing, and we'll keep talking about it. Hebrew letters, the only ones with connection to toroidal angles. I don't think that idea alone, even by itself, runs through at all. This is just it's kind of like this. It's a meme, but if you look closer, like if you actually look at the logic of what is being proposed there, it doesn't really run through. I'm always, always, always open for revision, but it's going to have to be demonstrated by somebody who really understands mathematics, so they can say, "This is how it is. This is why it makes sense, and why. This is what makes sense here, and why." And without being too without being too strident about it, I can just tell you that uh, I've never encountered an individual who entertains the idea of the Hebrew letters and the toroid that also understands actually understands mathematics deeply. I'm open being revised, but it's, I think it's not a coincidence. It's not a real thing. That's my position. That it's not a real thing. Because a real thing needs to be mapping onto not just its own logic, but onto everything else that's happening in the world. It's neat, it's cool, and toroids definitely play a major role in the way that certain things operate in our physical universe. That is true. The Hebrew letters, I mean, if you look at, for example, the only connection that I can find that might hold some water, but it's really out there, is the Itzhak Bentov's work, which some people probably be familiar with, especially if you're into the toroid thing. And that is that at the core of reality, the energetic streams basically look like the Hebrew letters. Or the Hebrew letters look like these primordial energetic streams, like Aleph and things like this. And this is why they have the uniqueness that they do. Now, I'm willing to follow that line of reasoning, but unless you can show discernible application in the world, I don't think anything should be acquitted to not pass that test. Otherwise, it's just a neat idea, and that's fine. But then that will not be something that I would feel comfortable standing on, discerning anything that has to do with our existence. And yes, please come join our Discord indeed. Thank you so much for the likes and the love. I appreciate you guys. I watched a tree deconstruct itself and rebuild itself several times. What's happening? I don't know. I also am not sure what you're referring to, Wendy. Entities. So there's a lot of different entities. But there's not 3 pyramids. There's 120 pyramids. Why focus on these 3? The point of the concept is there might be a connection to the code and actual structure of reality. Well, I think there is, but we're not going to get to it by assuming a lot of hypotheticals and theoreticals. I'm interested in what we can discern and test for. There's infinite number of things that might be possible. I'm not interested in those. I'm interested in what, in fact, is possible. As Whitehead famously wrote, anything is possible. It's just that certain things went through the formality of actually existing. And I'm very much with that. That in the end of the day, there's an infinite number of things we can postulate that might be true, sure, but there's also such a thing as actually true. And some people would bite the bullet and they say they don't even believe in that. They think it's all constructed by what we think it is. Sure, I disagree. I think it's easy to demonstrate. It's just simply false on its face because you can't walk through the wall. It's that easy, right? And I don't even know how people proceed from that point, right? I don't know what happens in their brain that they proceed going with that idea. Is because they say, yeah, but ultimately maybe you can walk through the wall. Well, that's not the point. The point is that right now, as it stands, with your perception and your current state, you can't walk through the wall. It's that simple. You can't fly. You can't do any of these things. That is important. It's part of what's going on now, right? Even if ultimately maybe you can somehow, you still have to explain how you go from not being able to being able to by understanding the mechanism, the environment that you're in, and then trying to influence in every which way to see what actually holds water. In other words, physics. You know? You can see similar Hebrew letters of in one molecule. Yeah, I don't really know what they are. They don't. Some of them do look kind of like very close to Hebrew and kind of like a hybrid between katakana and Hebrew, But I think that if you're seeing a lot of information that you can't really discern because there's too much of it, in that scenario, it's not that crazy to assume that if it's kind of like something it has a real shape on its own. But if it's close enough to the things we know, that's what your brain will kind of default to, right? But that's not the same as to say that it has its own natural state, which it does. So the closest thing I can say, because I do speak Hebrew and it does look a lot like that, but it also looks a lot like Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese. But I also know that it's most likely neither of those. Just the closest things that we kind of can discern that it is. But it's a lot of it's not all up for grabs, because it's a lot of there are a lot of things that it isn't. Definitely not English. Definitely not. It does not look like that. It does not look like Latin letters at all. It does not look like Cyrillics. It does not look like Hindu. It doesn't. So there's like small differences that you can kind of discern. So, that I think is actually a good gauge to see where you stand on that. About to convert to Reform Judaism. All right. Well, that's a big step there. Good luck with that. I know it's a process, not as opposed to other religions. Judaism actually makes it pretty difficult to enter the picture, because the Kabbalistic explanation is that the Jews' job is to actually maintain a lot more commands than just the 10 Commandments. There's 613 of them. Now, obviously, most Jews don't do that, but that's if you're entering Judaism, that means that's a big commitment to do something. So they want you to at least understand the ramifications and what you're actually entering, because there's a higher responsibility in terms of morality and things like this. So good luck with that. The doc is coming out closer to the end of the year. As Ebony said, we're almost done shooting everything. We're going to be moving to post-production probably next month, so June. Can see it for what it really is if you're stuck in first and second. All right. Thanks for the lesson. Never seen Hebrew before, but on internet I saw and clicked striking similarity. Interesting. Oh, you've never seen the language before, I see. Especially being cradle Catholic. What is that? I don't know what cradle Catholic is. I need to educate myself. Have you videoed what you've seen with the laser? I don't know how you would do that, considering that you have to be on the molecule. But if you join our Discord, which is in my link tree above on TikTok, people exchange these ideas, and some people, including our incredible moderator Ebony, she drew some, and people share these. Hey Guru, we are live. We're alive. Japanese, Hebrew, runes sometimes. Yeah, a little bit like runes as well. Are you a wizard, Harry? Are you a hairy wizard? That's different. Wait, are we saying the toroid? I might not have heard correctly. Magnetic slipping. Not sure what you mean by that, Yoni. If you can explain. Oh yeah, if you want to follow on Twitch again, it's LaserX83. Thank you so much, Ebony, for a reminder. It's a theory about how if you combine all of the Hebrew letters, you end up with a 4-dimensional structure, one hyperdimensional shape. I mean, which one? The one that with the energetic streams? I don't know if it's part of that. Again, I'm gonna reshare the quote, and I think it really stands. I posted it on X the other day. Actually, let me just pull it from X. There you go. I'm gonna read it to you, and I'm gonna repost it here. So if you want to follow me on X as Goal or Danny, please do so. It'd be great. But the quote is, which I think is great. Boom. Copy link. Let's see if it's gonna sit here. This is a direct response to what you're asking. And again, I'm not saying that necessarily you are, a proponent of this, but I think that's the problem with all of these things that people are saying that sound extremely complex. Again, Terrence Howard is a really good example of this. The quote is by Nietzsche, and it says, "Whoever knows he is deep," obviously they. We can change it to they to be more modern. It's not he, but they. Whoever knows they are deep tries to be clear, but whoever wants to seem deep to the crowd tries to be obscure. For the crowd supposes that anything it cannot see to the bottom must be deep. It is so timid and goes so unwillingly into the water. In other words, most people would much rather listen to somebody who themselves are confused about what's going on or don't really know if they sound very profound and complex. They're saying they're like, again, I'm not saying you're doing it, but the idea is out there, right? Like the Hebrew letters combined into this 4-dimensional structure, and like I bet you if you grill anybody on this, like I was like, all right, show me how it does that. Almost, I want to say everybody. I'm going to say almost everybody, but what I really mean is everybody who talks about this idea will not be able to show you how that actually works because they have no idea. Because what does that even mean, right? Like if you understand a little bit of logic and mathematics, it's like, yeah, there's ways to do very extravagant things, but it's not by stating these like general statements. Like it requires a lot of work and understanding that I would say basically, and like these entertaining these like crazy ideas is not in terms of false, but just like crazy complex. There's a lot of work that needs to go into understanding them, usually involving getting like a PhD level understanding of mathematics or physics. So how many people did that and also talk about that? Very little, very small percentage of the population. I'm sure they exist. But even there, you have to kind of measure it against other quirks of the human psyche. Like even very smart people sometimes fall prey to all kinds of wacky ideas, especially because they're usually right about a lot of things. So they kind of congratulate themselves too much, and then they forget that unless you can map it onto something that actually happens in the world in a way that is predictable and you can actually show how it operates and you can do something with it, either do work with it or, make predictions with it, it's just a cool idea. That's my view about most of these things that people talk about, the toroids and the people say Golden ratio and like, yeah, it's there. Okay. But what that means is there's a whole other spectrum of investigation that actually happens very deeply that I think people are not aware of. Like, mathematicians and physicists, theoretical physicists, investigating things that are really out there and very wild, but they use very specific and succinct, in case they solve these equations, but they go very deeply and very methodically into these things, not just like making these general statements. It's not pulled out of their asses, so to speak. And I think that there's this meme nowadays, there's this notion that mainstream academia somehow only does all the boring stuff, and they won't let all the really big innovators of thought enter the picture. Again, I'm sure there's always some resistance by the mainstream to allow certain ideas in because they're not the mainstream, and that's just, again, it's natural. I don't see any problem with it. I don't know why people complain about this. It's good. It's good that it's this way. It needs to be this way. Because if your idea is really revolutionary and really correct, eventually it will penetrate through anybody's personal resistance to it, because it's just true. You can't argue with what's true infinitely. You can't. It's just the truth will simply enter the picture for what it is. Chris just gifted. Did you gift people twice? So Chris just gifted 5 people a membership, and then I think he did it twice. Chris, thank you so much for your generosity. This happens sometimes if you're on YouTube on Dango Thoughts. Sometimes some of our moderators, Chris and Ebony, and others, gifting people memberships. But even if you weren't gifted a membership, so first of all, thank you so much, Chris. It never goes unnoticed, and it's always an incredible gesture. Thank you so much. It helps the community grow. But even if you weren't gifted a membership, I highly recommend you at least join one of our. You can try a membership for 1 month, see what it's like to actually have these weekly lives. I was very upfront about the fact that when we started, I didn't quite know what I was doing, so I didn't promise crazy, all of a sudden amazing, mind blowing materials to pop out of nowhere all the time. But I think we're increasingly making it more and more fun and engaging and educational, and I think it's real value. So come check it out for 1 month. It's not that expensive. It's literally the price of a cup of coffee, and it helps the project tremendously. Ebony just gifted another 5. Deeply appreciate you, Ebony. Thank you so much. Nico is saying, Boltzmann formulated the concept of entropy far and analyzed himself far before it was accepted. Hold on. I think I missed a lot. First of all, how are you doing? Ellipsian is in the house. Did you drop the new music, by the way? Cradle Catholic was born Catholic. Got it. Thank you so much. Hashem forgiveness. Every time on Molecule, I can see transparent tree entities looking like a lotus flower. I mean, that sounds lovely. Have you seen Brad on TikTok? He makes some bold claims about using the molecule. I mean, I know, if we're talking about the same Brad, I know Brad. I don't know what specific claims he's making now, but if you want, you can text it to me. Send it to me on my DM. I usually don't check these, but I'll check today. Have you tried with magnets, not necessarily interacting with the laser, but interacting with what you're looking at? Yeah, we tried it in all kinds of ways. I think if it will work, it will have to have a way stronger magnetic field. You missed it. What's up, Marisol? Good to see you. Lipsian is about to drop something. Sounds exciting. I would argue that most scientists are sleeping on Wolfram. Sleeping, you mean in the sense of like, what do you mean by that? Actually, yeah, I don't know quite what you mean. I think I understand, but yeah, I think Wolfram has one of the most promising frames to look at things through. I agree with that. Anyways, my little spiel there was just to basically express my general attitude towards these, 4-dimensional this, 5-dimensional that. It was like, okay, show me how that works. Again, not to you personally. I don't mean that. I just mean in general, these ideas. I'm like, I don't, I'm relatively informed, and I'm not, on like a crazy mathematician's level, but I can read some equations. I can kind of understand the logic of some. I understand like how, fundamentals of mathematics work. And like, I don't even know what people can begin to mean by that, even from the most charitable perspective. And I really think that most don't. That's just what I'm trying to express. I think that ultimately we want to do justice to the fact that, yes, the universe is a lot more complex than we can maybe express in every single instance, but the best attempt at doing that collectively is our sciences. And as imperfect as science is, it is the best attempt to do that, exemplified by the fact of the world that we've built. A lot of scientists talk brush Wolfram off. Oh, yeah. Again, that will be a perfect instance where science is resisting a new idea, but if Wolfram can show that it's working, then they won't be able to resist much longer, I would imagine. Thank you so much, guys. And Chris is also being so nice, saying it's random who gets them. Please don't think I don't love you. YouTube picks who gets them. That is a good system, by the way. So that way there's no hard feelings. And yes, Tom just got a membership and is grateful. Yeah, Mark, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mark. Oh yeah, about the magnets. I think it will require much more powerful magnets than we tried. That's the truth. Hold on, before we. Dielectricity exists. Takes decades of studying just to intentionally say anything coherent, plus novel in physics. That is probably the most succinct way of putting everything I just tried to say in like 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Nico, for making me feel inadequate. No, I'm kidding. It's great. Thank you. That is exactly right. I'm going to read it again. Nico, who's a scientist, said, and a very humble one at that, says it takes decades of studying just to intentionally say anything coherent, plus novel in physics. Yeah, first you have to kind of catch up with what we already know. Then you can say, hey, this is why this is this or that or anything else. Due to time difference, it's not always easy to like. Well, I'm glad you made it, my Brighton, as well. As I see, Ebony is too. Tom is saying, time to charge phone and so. I think it has more to do with the fact that modern science depends on funding from biased sources. Even that, I would say, Matthew, again, this is not to say that there are no ills in every institution that we have that always needs to be addressed, but that is just the natural state of affairs. I guess what I am expressing is that, to my mind, the outrage that people feel for these kind of I don't necessarily know if you do, but a lot of people do, right? People like outraged um, about the fact that there's incentives and financial incentives. That's the nature of the world. That there's no like you just Anybody who gets like enraged by this, I think just misunderstands how the world works. And humans, so far, the best way we found is what we have, and we're trying our best. That's the truth, right? So currently, we're working on a monetary system that based on currency that, as imperfect as it is, it allows for a relatively, and I know some people would find this hard to believe, but this is a relatively peaceful time, actually. Like, even though there's all these wars going on, that is still one of the most peaceful times in the history of humanity. And this is something we have to accept, that we are doing our best, and that's the best we could do so far, and we're trying to do more. So, for example, with financial incentives, yeah, somebody worked very hard to get to a certain position. I assure you that most people with a lot of money did not just inherit it. Most people that don't inherit money and don't know how to handle it, they always lose it. So some work went into getting to a position in life, and they have a say on what they prefer to put their resources into. There's nothing outrageous about it. It's how we measure value, and whomever has more value has more options. It's just how it works. Now, of course, I'm not even getting into the conversation of like luck being involved. Some people are just born in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sure, that's absolutely true. But as somebody who was born and didn't have to, I didn't have to make some moves in my life to get to a certain place, and I know that I definitely wasn't given the opportunities that some people enjoy in the beginning of my life. But I know it's possible to get somewhere, and I also know that there's a lot of people that are a lot less lucky than myself. We're somewhere, and all we can do is to do our best the second we have the possibility to not just express what we want, but to pay attention to what others want. That would be kind of like the perfect world, right? But you have to create a system that caters to that kind of a operation. And I think we're getting there. We're slowly starting to care more about one another, about the environment. The incentives start to slowly shift. These things are already happening. So it's not now. It's just how things work. And by the way, even like I always point it out because I think it's important to notice this. I'm not saying that humans always have to follow just the natural order of what how the rest of nature does things, because humans are unique in that we are much more coherent air correctors, so to speak. So we can find paths a lot less, a lot smoother, even before you walked through it. So you don't have to bump into every single wall before you find the right path, so to speak. That's the role of knowledge in the universe. And but still, it is important to point out that even this, Pareto law and just these tropes that people repeat, like it's 1% of the population holds 90% of the wealth in the world. Yes, so is the universe. That's how the universe is constructed. 1% of galaxy clusters contain 90% of the matter in the universe. It's the natural order of things, and there's nothing. So the outrage part of it doesn't make any sense, especially not when you're trying to get ahead, or like if you're trying to advance humanity. The understanding that certain things are the way they are and we can make them better without the negative emotions is the path forward into a truly deep thinking, forward looking humanity that I think is what we want to become. Let's see how far away I am from the end of the chat, from the bottom of the list. Yoni saying PWM solar charge controller. That's what you got today. Oscillating every back EMF spike. It works. Then I'm running a Bedini generator off of that. That is epic. Congratulations. Zorans is asking if we can accept your membership. Go away from keyboard. What does that mean? I don't know what you mean by accept for membership. It's something you have to sign up for. Having a strong medical background. I think to the molecule has a relationship. I think the molecules have has relationship with smooth muscles which interact with ocular visualizations as it related to sensory motor perception. Smooth muscle. What is smooth muscle versus any muscle? Is Weinstein a genius? Wait, Entropy Labs. Nico, is that you? Because that's what you asked me in our comments. I mean, he's definitely very smart. There's no question about that. I think it depends on how you define a genius, but he's very well-rounded intellectual that is very widely and deeply read, and has PhD in mathematical physics, which is not an easy topic. And he's very cultured and educated on many different topics, from art to music to cultural, and it's a very well-rounded individual. And he speaks in a very interesting way. He always enters a sentence, and I'm not always sure how he's gonna, end on what note he's gonna end. He always has a perspective and an angle that are very interesting. So, I guess you can say that, yeah. Aware of Ken Wheeler? Yes, I'm aware of Ken Wheeler. Not outraged about anything. Anything is natural. Plastic is natural. Oh, yeah, we're on the same page then. Because we made it out of nature, but funding is biased, so it stagnates science. Yes and no. So it both stagnates some portions of science and also advances other portions of science that the community deems important. We can agree that maybe there's things that the community should reevaluate as important, and other things the community should devalue as not important. You and I might even agree on maybe 100% of that, but I wouldn't say that 100% of the time. The bias is the thing that I'm saying is baked into the system. Like, it's just how it is. Like, you're not gonna get rid of bias. There's always the position you're in, and then it's just it's a measuring game that you're playing with. How much should you allocate for yourself, and then how much you should allocate for others that are less fortunate than you, depending on your exact circumstances, who you are, how how caring you are for others in the environment. All of these are sliding parameters, but the bias is always there, no matter what. Like, you will always bias something to some degree. If you have a child, you will always bias in favor of your child, or almost always, right? So that's also a natural state of. I'm not really sure that necessarily is true, that it stagnates progress. And again, this is what Eric kind of runs with, right? And I don't know if I fully agree with that. I also understand what he's saying, because I do think that sometimes science is being hard-headed for no good reason. Like, it's not going to lose anything if it's going to allow a few more people within its own academic circles to still work on things that are slightly more fringe. There should be nothing wrong with that. It doesn't stagnate progress either. So I would agree with that as well. There are 4,000 billionaires in the US because of the opportunity in this country. Yes. Learning to focus my intentions away from wars into a positive mental field of view, knowing that our thoughts and intentions can affect change. Hallelujah. I would agree with that. Okay, so I have to adjourn before, because we're going to start our members live in 10 minutes. So I'm going to jump off this one. If you want to join the members live, please come join Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DANGO Thoughts. Join the membership program, and you can join our members weekly live in 10 minutes. It's going to start from 10 minutes. We're going to dive into some fun subjects I'm going to suggest, and then Cosmo's playing with a snake. What is that? I have no idea. What is that? Yeah. He's crazy. In any case, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to follow me across platforms, you'll be Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram. You'll be Goller Danny on X. Just swap them. Laser X83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. DANGO GO Thoughts on YouTube. Come join the membership program so you can join the members live. And tomorrow we also have a Zoom call for members, second tier and up. Come join our Discord. Third link from the top in my social, on my main YouTube channel, and on TikTok in my link tree. And come check out the store, codeofreality.com, in which we have merch of items that will never exist again. There's a limited amount of them, and then we have the new logo. So what you see in the store now is our old logo, which is going to be very nostalgic very soon and will never repeat again. I love that logo. Go and get you a mug and or shirt with some of our designs. Anyways, love you guys. Thank you so much for the community. Thank you so much for the moderators, Ebony and Chris and Guru. Appreciate you guys. Matthew, thank you so much for joining and having a great conversation. Nathan, Nico, Ellipsian, can't wait to hear what you have to share from your new music. Nathan, what else? Who else we got here? Thank you so much for engaging with the conversation. Who was with us here today? Marcus. Wait, why are we missing people? Oh, there we go. Numeros X, I don't know if you're still with us, but if so, thank you so much for your thoughts and your ideas. I appreciate you. Entropy Labs and all the people that joined from X and from Twitch. Appreciate you. Have a good night. See you in the members live in 8 minutes. Peace and love. Ciao. See you guys. Have a good night.